Yeah.
Who else turned on?
Oof. We are live on YouTube now.
All right, I'll get started and then I'll fix my audio issues. All right, I'm gonna call the Board of Alderman session to order. First thing to discuss is City Hall reconfiguration.
Okay, making sure that you all can hear me because somehow I'm not able to hear. Mayor, are you muted? Okay. Okay, very good. Just wanted to walk through quickly the plans and information that we have for the renovation of City Hall, because as noted in your packet, we do anticipate putting this out to bid. We had originally anticipated next week, excuse me, tomorrow, but at this point in time, there are some other items that A3G is working on, and so they anticipate having final documents for us to review this week, and we'll put it out to bid next week. It still keeps on a schedule that would allow award of bid on November 19th. So we'll move toward that. We kind of, during our last board meeting, reviewed the floor plan a bit, but this would make renovations and reconfiguration to the lobby area to reduce the size of the lobby, create a vestibule to come in through a smaller lobby, reconfigure the window area slightly, create conference space, reconfigure the administrative work area, create a wall where the existing finance specialist office is so that there's a bit more privacy there. Move the resources that are currently in this area outside the finance specialist office into and create a copy and mail work area in the existing kitchen area. Minor renovations to the kitchen area, basically new flooring back toward the corridor that was renovated as part of the renovation, or created as part of the prior renovation project. And make improvements to the men's restroom, stub out for a future restroom in the police side, improvements to the women's room, and then on basically the administrative side of things, it would be new carpet and painting. As I had indicated, we anticipate putting this out to bid next week and bringing it forward to the board in mid-November at the November 19th meeting for award of bid, and then that work to occur over the winter in phases as we move people around to accommodate for that.
November 17th.
I'm sorry, thank you. Just wanted to, unless there are questions, just really wanted to present that to folks to be able to review and ask any questions before we put it out to bid.
Any questions? Oh, sorry. Any questions?
Okay. Very good. I'm sorry, somehow I'm not getting my, do you want me to mute my headphones over here? Well, here we go.
All right, next item on the agenda is the CARES Act funding.
And I have that information as well. Included in your packet is a memo from me outlining expenditures to date and looking for direction from the board with regard to remaining funding. As you'll recall, we got about just under $946,000 for use. We have expended funds that bring us to unallocated funds of about $465,000. What we have expended monies on include reimbursement to ourselves for city expenditures. That's everything from cleaning supplies, purchase of PPE, equipment to facilitate remote work. We've purchased computers. We have purchased additional laptop screens, printers. We've had to use those as we've had people in quarantine over the last few weeks as well. So those have been essential to response. We have identified the potential of as much as $40,000 in additional expenditures. Staff got together and really kind of looked at what we have spent to date and thinking about how we could stock as much supplies as possible and able to be able to respond to COVID over the next 12 months. So that $40,000 is just kind of an estimate. In addition, we've spent just over $140,000, $141,500 for 2 rounds of small business grants, touchless features throughout the organization, and we are awaiting receipt of the water coolers, the water fountains. Those we hope to have installed by the end of this month. We included $30,000 or have spent $30,000 for technology at Heritage Park to allow live streaming. The meeting room audio-visual project that is ongoing right now, and we hope to have completed again by the end of the month at about $43,000. $25,000 for rental and utility assistance. To date, about $11,000, a little over $11,000 of that has been expended to 12 Smithville households. And then to date, we've reimbursed just under $60,000 to the school district for elementary expenses. Included in your packet is information from each of the other Clay County communities on what they've expended their funds on. Really, our expenditures are consistent with what others have done. The only other item that we haven't really had discussions on is reimbursement for public safety salaries, and I'll talk about that here in a moment. And I believe in a couple of instances there were payments to or allocations made to chambers or downtown partnerships to cover income losses from festivals and the like. We do have, in the category of other potential expenditures for future discussion, we have additional reimbursement to the school district. They have made a request for additional equipment and supplies to mitigate the spread of COVID at the middle and high school levels, and those total about $21,000. The district has indicated that there have been additional expenditures as well, so any amount over that, I think they would be appreciative of. We've had discussions about installation at the courtyard of Wi-Fi to allow people to work outside and work more in an open environment. I don't know if the board wanted to discuss that possibility. We have previously talked about HVAC improvements to city facilities, and those estimates are about $20,000. We've had discussions with regard to revenue replacement. At this point in time, this is not included in any legislation. We have about $80,000 that we estimate we have lost in revenues as a result of COVID-19. But at this point in time, it does not appear that that is reimbursable. The newest information we've received outlines reimbursement for public safety salaries. And a number of the communities in Clay County are really exploring that as an opportunity to offset some of the expenditures related to COVID response. The language is very broad and allows expenditure of public safety salaries. That would be police, fire, ambulance costs throughout the COVID exposure, so beginning in March. I think that's something that we could have some good discussion on. We have had discussions with the city attorney with regard to this, and they believe this to be an appropriate expenditure based on the interpretation of the Department of Treasury frequently asked questions. I included information in the packet that the auditors for the City of Liberty have included as well, and their read is consistent that this would be an appropriate expenditure. So really what we're looking for tonight from the board, we're closing in on the end of the expenditure window and probably where we need to be thinking about focusing those expenditures and what we want to look at returning to Clay County. So if you take the expenditures that we've made to date for purchase of supplies and response and anticipated expenditures, along with costs that we have directly borne based on employees taking the Families First leave time, the small business grants and those items I talked about, we have about $509,000 of expenditures, leaving just under $450,000 unallocated. It would look for direction from the board as to how you all would like to direct the remainder of those funds, or how much we would like to turn back to Clay County.
I'll go ahead and jump in. I had to be the first one to kind of lead on this one. You know, my employer just returned $6 billion in CARES Act funding, with a very clear comment that to spend the money, while there could be opportunities to spend that money, it wouldn't be the wise use of tax dollars to do so. So some of it was almost an advance payment loan, but a good portion of that was straight CARES Act funding that could have been used for purposes that could have been legitimate under the CARES Act. So I lead with that, and as a fiscal conservative, believe that that's my strong leaning anyway. I also firmly believe that our darkest months are indeed ahead of us, as we enter the fall months and the unknown between COVID versus flu and people being out. And I think the likelihood of us truly getting hit with our officers and other staff being out is higher. So we're going to see some increased expenses there, as well as the unknown of what do we truly need. And we're learning more as we go. And I don't think we're still there yet on it makes sense to do an HVAC, but believe that maybe some point down the road, it does come to that point. So as much as I hate to say it, and I think it's time to kind of keep our powder dry, keep those funds available. I think we can look at those things that we might expend those on. I struggle to suggest that we reimburse ourselves for expenses for staff that were anything outside of extraordinary. But I think, you know, it's not bad to kind of go ahead and have that data point ready to go if we get to that point and believe that that's the right way to go. I think, you know, right now we're consistent with the peer communities, and that's somewhat important. But what's more important is doing what's right with the taxpayer money. And I believe at this point, it's not spending any more of it and keeping it ready for when we need it.
So are you suggesting we sit on it, or do you want to return some of it back to Clay County?
I think we sit on it. I don't think we need to return anything at this point.
What's the deadline to make that determination if we have to turn it back, or how long can we sit on it for?
I think it's the end of the year.
Our agreement actually anticipates expenditure by the end of October. As we've discussed before, CARES funding is through the end of the year, and most communities are anticipating waiting until the end of the year for that turn back.
Yeah, I mean, I can see waiting at least another month or two.
Yep. Our next meeting's in 3 weeks, so we'll see how it is then.
I think the HVAC would be a good idea, though.
So wait until November 2nd. We have a meeting. We don't have a work session scheduled at that point in time. Do we want to discuss this on November 17th?
Is everybody good with that? I know, Steve, you mentioned the HVAC.
Yeah, I just think that's a good idea to do, not just for now, but in the future, we may have more pandemics, and it'd be good to have that UV system that would help clean the air in the city hall for when residents come in, to be a safer place to meet.
I would note, one concern that staff has with that would be, at this point in time, getting that bid and that work underway prior to the end of the year when we'd be turning that money back might be difficult, but we'd look to you all on that, and that can be something that we can take a look at.
I'm not buying the HVAC just yet. I don't believe there's any data that truly shows that. I know we just frankly replaced our HVAC system, so we're taking out a fairly new one to put in additional scrubbers that I'm not sure are necessary.
Okay. Anybody else have any opinions for discussion? Okay, I think that's it.
Okay, so at this point in time, we'll just hold and we'll bring it back on the 17th, excuse me. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is executive session. Need a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve that we adjourn to executive session pursuant to section 610.021, subsection 3 of RSMO.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second by Alderman Chevalier. Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Uladell. You're muted.
I was on the wrong screen.
Alderman Chevalier.
Aye.
Alderman Sarver.
Aye.
Alderman Blumker.
Aye.
4-0.
We stand adjourned to executive session. Linda, are we using the same Zoom?
Yeah, I'll just kick everybody